Hello. Hi, everyone. Chris, is that good? Just talk normally. Okay. 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 I'm talking into the mic. Thank you guys for coming. We are gathered to celebrate John and to remember him. And his wishes were to bring people together, to share stories and memories. And so we don't have a formal set of procedures today, but I would invite folks to share. If it moves you to share thoughts or memories, we are live streaming this, which is new for us, but John's reach was far and wide in all over the world. And so I think there are folks joining as far away as India and all sorts of places. We have a couple, Andrew will say some words, but, and if anyone, so John's unique life in his departure has brought all these different sections of his life together. And so I think today, I want to acknowledge in this room, we have friends of his from 30 years ago, and we have neighbors, and we have dear friends from just a couple years ago and a couple months ago, and students. And so I love that, and I'm so thrilled that you guys are all here to share in this, and it demonstrates his incredible capacity to reach people across time and space. So thank you for coming today.
So I just wanted to welcome everyone as well today. There's no sort of formal prepared remarks because that's not what John wanted. What I wanted to do is welcome a couple people in the room who were particularly instrumental in sort of escorting John out of this life and into the next phase. His dearest, oldest friend, John, who's here, Naomi and Victoria and Pandy, Hurak, Natalie, and many people, others who I may not be including here, who played a really instrumental part in his last months in making him feel warm and loved, and making him feel the love that he has given through so much of his life. I will start in the sort of stand up, and for those who are moved to speak, they can speak. For those who are not moved to speak, you do not have to speak. And I think what I want to say is I'm in the fortunate position to have received emails and communications from around the world in the months leading up to John's death, and then immediately afterwards, and the number in particular of parents of students who reached out to me and talked about how they made him feel safe and comfortable in having their children fly across the world, both in the communications beforehand and in when they arrived, and they arrived late, and suitcases weren't there, and the kids were nervous, and he was always in touch with them, and he made them feel that their children were cared for. And he did that for decades. His impact is on tens of thousands of people. And I feel lucky to have known him and worked with him in these last years of his life. That's all I want to say. So, whoever's next.
My name is Casey, and I met John in, I think, 2016, no, maybe 2015. He interviewed me for a job, which he subsequently offered, and I subsequently did not take at the time. But I followed John on Facebook for 8 years until the next opportunity came along, which was the best timing for me, which landed me here. And so I owe John for the best job I've ever had, for the best students I've ever experienced, for the best community of professionals I've ever experienced, and and for a fellow chocolate lover. So today I want to share my favorite poem at a time of grief by another favorite John named John O'Donohue, who is a Celtic Irish poet. And then I also just want to say, hopefully I'll get through this, but there's a guest book going around, and Pandy has it over there, and it's got plenty of colors. John was full of color, and he brought a lot of color into our community, so I'm hoping that we can send it on to his family with the spirit of love and generosity that he brought here. The poem is called Benacht. On the day when the weight deadens on your shoulders and you stumble, may the clay dance to balance you. And when your eyes freeze behind the gray window and the ghost of loss gets into you, may a flock of colors, indigo, red, green, and azure blue, come to awaken you in a meadow of delight. When the canvas frays in the currach of thought and a stain of ocean blackens beneath you, may there come across the waters a path of yellow moonlight to bring you safely home. May the nourishment of the earth be yours. May the clarity of light be yours. May the fluency of the ocean be yours. May the protection of the ancestors be yours. And so may a slow wind work these words of love around you, an invisible cloak to mind your life. Thank you, John.
Hello, everyone. My name's Harry. I am a member of the U.S. National Committee. I've been on the committee for 7 years, served 2 years as co-chair, during which time I talked with John probably more often than I talked with my wife. I'm going to try and get through this with a smile, because John was one of those people who was always quick to laughter and quick to smile. He, in many of our committee meetings, which were long and arduous, he would always be the one to crack a joke or raise the mood, because, you know, at the end of the day, after you've been sitting in the same room for 8 hours, you kind of are getting a little tired of everyone around you. When I first met John, he was brand new as the admissions director at UWC-USA. It was 2019, and I was also brand new on the US National Committee. I came in young, full of energy, and I thought I knew everything about the committee. John, as many of you will attest, is someone who does not shy away from hard conversations or having strong opinions. And when a rock meets another rock, one of them probably has to move. I will never forget our first ever reading weekend together in November 2019. We were in the New Mexico room of the castle, and we were discussing a candidate with such ferocity that both of us were looking at each other, and I really did wonder in that moment if one of us might be moved to violence. John was adamant that this student needed to be selected, and I was equally adamant that no, they did not. What I appreciated about that moment in John is, even though I can be a strong voice at times, he did not back down, and he stood up for what he believed in. It also was the start of a relationship that would last until earlier this year. He and I would often kind of go back and forth. We would have our combative moments. I think he found me an irritating young person who was full of jumped up ideas and knew nothing of the world. And I viewed him as, occasionally a stick in the mud that I couldn't move. When I became co-chair, it was with some difficulty and apprehension that I approached my relationship with John, just because it had been so contentious in the past. But over those 2 years that I was co-chair, I learned so much about what a kind and generous man he was. His relentless curiosity was always something that I admired greatly. He was always the person in our committee meetings who would raise his hand, and I would sigh inside. And he would ask the difficult question that I was kind of hoping we would avoid, to avoid prolonging the meeting for another 30 minutes. But it was always a good question, and it was an important question to ask. And I so appreciated, after I'd reflected, that he'd asked it. And kind of the final thing that I'd like to say about John is that he had this relentless belief in people, and he was incredibly loyal. I think one of the most moving things that I saw was when I went to visit him about a year ago. He was battling his leukemia and fighting hard. And I went to visit him when he was home, and he was there with his mother. And it was the first time I'd met his mother, who was a formidable woman. Even I only met her briefly, but the little I saw demonstrated the challenge that John had. And yet, John responded only with kindness and tenderness towards her. And as someone who cares for people who are sick and ill, I can attest to the difficulty that holds. And to respond only with kindness is a real challenge. And so the loyalty that John demonstrated in that moment was just truly striking to me. And I think I will get to the final thing I'm going to say. His belief in his students was paramount above all. I think the thing that would mean the most to him today is the fact that he has some of his students here, because whenever I would talk with him, those would be the people he would come back to. And as he, got towards the end of his days, I think that was kind of what kept him going. As we were reviewing files today in our committee meeting, even as he was in October and November starting to become very unwell, he was still reading applications. And his comments were there as we reviewed files today. And I know that he would be glad that we are remembering him in this way, and that some of his current students are here.
Hello, my name is Zahra, and I'm an Afghan student. And today I'm here to talk about John, not just because I knew him because he was working in National Committee. I think I feel a really personal connection with him, because I think he definitely tried for all students to be here, but I think he fought for Afghans to be here. Especially, I felt that when I wanted to come here. When my visa was delayed, how he was giving me those inspiring emails. He was just making me calm about my trips and everything, and he was there through all the process with me. And I thought it's just me, but then I realized he was fighting for every single Afghan student to be here. And I was really excited to graduate and tell all to new Afghan students and to next generation to, guys, be happy. You guys have John Carpenter to support you. Unfortunately, he's not here to support them, but I will definitely tell all Afghan to about him and about what he did for us and what he did for all students to be here. He literally made us feel home, and I will never ever forget him, and I will never even let other students, like my new Afghan students, to forget about him. I will always remind them of his kindness and his brave actions towards students.
Hi everyone, I'm Pandy, and I met John in 2013 when he and Mauricio at UWC Costa Rica interviewed me for the position of academic director. And I thought, oh my, because I'd been on UWC campuses before, but these two men were amazing. Just so compassionate and smart and funny. I thought, but hanging around John for a while he gave me this tour of Santana. I'm thinking, this guy's funny, but it's really dry, and it's kind of sarcastic, and I'm going to be right next door to him in an office, and he might just drive me crazy. But he didn't. He became an incredibly good friend. This was a really tough job, you know, as those of us who've been in these positions know. And John was such a great thought partner, you know, how to get through challenges and just great ideas. We had a weekly date where we would go to a Peruvian joint, have a couple caipirinhas, and he had steak, I had fish, and we just kind of hashed out the week, which was wonderful. But I'm reminded by the student who came before me, his passion to make sure all students made it to campus. We had one student from Western Sahara. He was a Western Sahara refugee from a camp. And as often happens with many of our students, his visa was seriously delayed. So we started school in early September, and he still hadn't arrived early November. So finally the student arrives. He has not one word of English and a smattering of Spanish for I think most of you know, but not everyone does. UWC Costa Rica is the only UWC that provides a bilingual diploma, and students can earn it in Spanish or English. And so he has a smattering of Spanish from attending some summer camps, 2-week-long summer camps in Spain. And, you know, he gives it the old college try. And after, I think he lasted about 3 weeks, he came to us and said, I can't do it. I just can't do it. You can imagine what this student faced coming out of a refugee camp in Western Sahara into Costa Rica and not really being able to communicate with anyone except the Arabic-speaking students. So John and I planned to really try to work with this guy and let him know the kind of support he could get. We had Arabic speakers come and translate for us, and we made a deal with this guy. And we said, you know, just give it 1 more month, and if you're really still unhappy, we will send you home. In the meantime, John was doing this background research trying to get individual students. You know what? You're going to eat with this guy Monday, Wednesday, Friday. You're going to eat with this guy Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. And he's a big soccer fan. You're going to play soccer with him, and you're going to get him to really kind of do an ex-ed in soccer. And anyway, just all these connections, all these people supporting him. And needless to say, after a month, he's like, okay, I think I can do it. So I really, it gives me shivers every time I think about this. So this student arrives in November with no English at all, very little Spanish, and he earned his IB diploma in a 1.5 years later. And this is the kind of guy John was. You know, he cared so for each individual student, so masterfully. And my parting comment, going back to his sense of humor, I lived on campus, he didn't. He would drive into campus, go as slowly as he could in this very weird car he had, and he'd wait for me to turn around, because he knew I inevitably would. He goes, hey, baby, you want some fries with that shake? And it's like, ugh. And I thought, ugh. So it wouldn't just be on my way to school, it would be on my way back to my house. And I was going up the campus here, and he turned me on to my position here at UWC-USA. And I'm hearing this car creep behind me. I'm like, oh no. And it's like, PTSD triggered, and there it is. Hey, baby. So anyway, I will miss him greatly. He's a dear, dear human being, and I feel very lucky to have known him.
My name is David, and I met John in 1999 when he moved back to the United States from most recently having been at the American School in London. And it just happened that the summer that John moved from London to St. Louis, I had taken my first trip out of the country from St. Louis to London. So at some point in time, we passed. And then we started at this job together. He was a college counselor. I was an English teacher. And, I really met him pretty quickly and enjoyed hanging out with him. And the more I got to know the life that he had lived all across the world, the more fascinated I was. And he would tell stories. And John was 7 years older than I am, so our relationship really became very much like he was a big brother to me. We would hang out, we would do stuff, we would have great thoughts. He would try to advise me on my life. And he certainly did improve it in many ways, not only in my life, but in the lives of my children. I'm going to go back and say this. One of the things you may not hear anybody say today is that John was an amazing cook. And he was not a person who cooked with a recipe. In fact, he would just, poo-poo any kind of idea of a recipe. But many times I would go to his house and visit him, and he said, let's just eat. And then, what do you have? And because we had busy jobs, you didn't necessarily have a full pantry. John could go in there, and there would be nothing. And then 30 minutes later, he would come out with just an amazing meal. And it's like, how do you do that? He said, I just know how things go together. And I think that was so true about this job that he loved so much in reading applications, in looking for people to hire and looking for how to put students together. He just knew how things went together to make an amazing meal, to sit together, to be together. And he always believed in me that I had more potential than I saw in myself. I'm a pretty smart guy. I actually became, I was a chemistry physics teacher. I taught English. I was a school superintendent. But I was always working really hard. But John, as my friend, saw more in me than I saw myself. When my children were in elementary school, and this is a huge gift he gave to me, he said to one of my daughters, pick a weird instrument. It'll pay off later. And she did. She picked a bassoon. I didn't know what a bassoon was. I'm from rural Georgia. What do I know, bassoon? And she pursued that and persisted for 10 years with it, and then she ultimately became a member of the St. Louis Symphony Youth Orchestra and received a scholarship to play bassoon in college. She was a computer science major because of an offhand comment that John made to my kids about making a good choice. Like I said, I was fascinated by the way he traveled, and John continued to travel even when he was in the States, and he invited me to tag along. So I was fortunate to get to go with him to Morocco. And then later, when he was at Munich International School, he invited me over professionally to do professional development for teachers there, which was a huge honor to me. I had never seen myself as a person who taught other teachers in another place. And he said, yes, come over. And I thoroughly enjoyed that. And some of those teachers are still my friends. So anyway, we were very much like brothers. Sometimes we didn't talk for a long time. Sometimes we fought, and then we would get back together. But we always were there for each other. So when he called me a couple of years ago and he said, I need for you to come and help me, I came and I stayed with his mother, so I got to know Dorothy, and I really understood John a whole lot better after knowing Dorothy, in that she was She was Dorothy, and she made John John, and John absolutely adored his mother. And the reason he came back to the States in the 90s is because his parents were ill. And he'd lived all over the world, and he felt like he had done a lot for himself, and he knew family is the most important thing, and he was there for his family until the very end. I never imagined that I would be with John until he died, but I was honored that I could be there for him. And it made me really realize how much he had done for me. And, I spent time with him this summer when he was recovering from his bone marrow transplant, and I got to hear him do his job. He was working in that apartment because we stayed together for 90 days because he had to have, a caregiver because his immune system was gone. But anyway, I listened to him do the work. I listened to him do those negotiations with people all over the world because he knew how things went together, and he knew that students needed to be at a place like this, and he knew that donors needed to give money for scholarships, and he just knew what everybody else needed to do, and he didn't hold back in telling them. And I appreciate that he did the same thing for me. He made me a better man because he was my friend. He made me just better because he loved me, and I loved him, and I appreciate seeing you all here because I heard what he did to help you get here. So thank you. Thank you, John.
Hi, everyone. I'm Keith. I am with Austin Winker, the current co-chairs of the U.S. National Committee. But I've known John for a lot longer, like many of us have. There's a whole world of international college admission people that cycle around the world from school to school and college to college on an annual cycle of conferences and seminars and so on. So I got used to seeing John on a regular basis 20 plus years ago at Overseas Association of College Admission Counselors, and then the new version international, ACAC. And so he was always a constant presence, a good professional friend. Appreciate that. There we go. Always a constant presence, someone you enjoyed seeing, a good friend from the professional world. But I had the great opportunity to get to know even better during these years on the committee. It's an incredible and wonderful intersection of time that we get to be here as the National Committee during our work, our annual meeting to choose Davis scholars who will attend UWC during this time to think about John, because he's at the center of all that we've done. So in 2020, I thought, I wanted to give back more to this set of schools that I've known for so many years and thought were so wonderful and had visited so many of them. So I decided to apply to be on the National Committee, which was then called the Selection Committee. So I did that and wrote my application, and I called John up and said, John, I think I'm going to apply for the committee. I'm excited about this opportunity. And John, being the ethical soul that he is like, well, that's really nice, but I can't tell you anything about the process. It's out of my hands. It's the committee that does it. You might get picked, and you might not. So John is never afraid to address a difficult or honest truth about things like that. So it's been, I'll try not to copy too much of Harry's perceptive comments of hard conversations, great conversations. But when I think about maybe the larger picture of who he is in this larger world, right? He was a leader in international admission and education. He was so broadly known and respected. So few people took their work so seriously and their mission so seriously, but to themselves with so little seriousness, right? Who could be so savvy and so goofy, who could lighten a moment or tighten the screws when they needed to be. And he has had effects in ways that are not always visible, because the work of this, of running a school or running an admission process is complicated and day-to-day, but he's done things over the years here. Our committee is more diverse than it ever was. That was a major goal of his over the years, to make the committee reflect better the kinds of people who work in education, the kinds of alumni that UWC put out. And making those changes to the committee has changed to some extent who we are selecting for Davis scholarships and who is moving forward into that wonderful world of UWC. So I was checking my phone right at the beginning of this to think about that ripple effect that he's had, right? All of you who are alumni on our committee are representing the many, many alumni worldwide who have been affected by him. All of us on the committee who are college admission folks, college or school side, represent this wider world of the profession who value him so much. And I had the solemn and sad and wonderful duty of sharing his passing in my professional networks. I thought that was the right thing to do, and heard back dozens, over 100 likes, hearts, comments from people I knew that I didn't know knew him that well in the professional world, people from UWC years ago that had been affected by him that I didn't know at all. It was a wonderful and to me very comforting set of moments to see how many people responded with memories and gratitude for all he's done for all of us. So being a former English teacher, being a literature nerd, I'm comforted by words from poetry and from literature. And so when I think about the way that John is so much clearly not here, that being here on this campus this weekend is a major moment for me and for others to acknowledge the absence that is unavoidable. But thinking about that wide network of how he has affected, influenced, opened amazing doors for students around the world. I think about words from Walt Whitman, from Lisa Grass, failing to find, and this may not be an exact quote because I'm just pulling it out of my head here, but failing to find me one place, search another. I stopped somewhere waiting for you. I think that's John, and that's John's influence into the future.
Hello, my name is Victoria, and I hired John here at UWC-USA as the admissions director. And what a hire that was. One of the last conversations I had with John was about a memorial service, and one of the things we talked about was how everybody who dies turns out to be a saint, because everybody just says all the good things, and I said, you know I'm not going to do that, right? And in fact, one of the last things I said to him was, you're such a pain in the ass. When I met John, he of course turned our interview into an interview of me. Instead of letting me interview him, that flipping became a theme of our relationship and our work together, where, I'd call him in to say, John, what about this? And he's like, well, what about that? Like, wait a minute, no, we're talking about this. No, we're talking about that. But one of the things that happened with John and happened with a number of staff when I was here was those who couldn't get housing on campus, didn't qualify for housing on campus, had to look for housing in Las Vegas, not always easy to find. And so they would move in with me in the president's house for a period of time until they could find their places. And John was one of those people. And he said from the beginning how weird it was. I just think it's really weird living with you. I was like, well, you don't have to. He's like, well, I do need to, but I think it's really weird. Okay, fine. So we would take these walks in the evenings, and John wanted to get to know me. He said, you're always saying that you're not the sort of person who is comfortable with hierarchy, so I think you should be more open about who you are. And I said, okay, what do you want to know? He said, tell me something that no one on campus would know about you. I said, that's interesting. He said, like a personal quality. I said, people probably don't know how reverent I am. And he burst out laughing. And I was not laughing. So I looked at him and he said, oh, you're serious? And I said, yes, I'm serious. Well, that became a running joke all through our work together. And, the times he came in, letting me know that the National Committee was going to have his head that evening and could I talk to them. Times he came in saying, this student needs this much money and they're not going to be able to come if they don't get that much money. And I know we have a budget and budgets are important, Victoria, but you say people are more important, so this is your chance. This is your chance to put your money where your mouth is. I'm like, John, just tell me how much you need. I mean, my God. And oftentimes he'd pull the reverent card. You are reverent, so I'm sure they'll... So I just want to share a story about John's last days, because I was honored enough to be able to spend a lot of time with John in his year with leukemia. And first thing I want to say about that is that while he was going through such a tough time and trying to figure out how to let go of his responsibility for his mother, he was also incredibly present for me in a difficult year And that showed so much of the quality of his character and how much he just cared about other people. And I think I said thank you to him many times, but I want to say in front of all of you that that quality that John had was something that is very rare. For every person who, will say, gosh, I don't know what to say in this situation. John always knew what to say, and that was good and bad. But he knew how to show up, even when he was struggling really in a pretty tough way for himself. But the reverence piece I wanted to talk about was what happened to John in Denver. He had gone his leukemia had come back, and he went to Denver, and I think didn't think very hard about the fact that he might end up dying in Denver, which is something he didn't want to do. He absolutely didn't want to die in the hospital, and he wanted to be in New Mexico where he could be around people who he loved and who loved him, and so many of you came to see him, which was just wonderful and meant the world to him. But my husband and I had gotten a call from the doctor. For a while, both David and I were named as his primary and secondary medical advocates, but he had never signed to make us powers of attorney. And so the hospital had been very good about keeping us informed, and we talked through all of the decisions around his care. But John was in pretty bad shape in the ICU starting at about Thanksgiving, and he was just getting worse and never was able to sign something to make that role formal. So his doctors called. David went in December after I had been there. Pandy came and spent a week. My husband was with me when we spent time. Then David came to spend time, and it just wasn't looking like John was going to get out of that hospital. And one of the things he kept saying to me when he was coherent was, "Don't let me die here." Just didn't want to die there. So my husband Tomas and I were headed up on the day before that the medical team was supposed to have a conversation with us and with David about John's care. And John was pretty incoherent at that point and had to have somebody with him at night because he was just pulling on his tubes, and it was a bad time. And my husband and I got there, and David said, I'm just going to let you spend some time with him. And he was pretty out of it, and so I started talking to him, and I said, "John, my mom has been praying the rosary for you every night." And he kind of tuned in and looked at me, and then he gestured for the board to write something because he wasn't able to talk at that point. And he wrote "rosary." And I said, "Yes, she's been praying the rosary for you." And then he pointed to himself, and I said, "Do you want a rosary?" John wasn't Catholic. And he nodded. So he, of course, got everybody in the hospital looking for a rosary late at night, and there was no rosary to be had late at night. So Tomas and I said, "Do you want to just pray it on our fingers? Because it's very simple to pray on your fingers." So he nodded yes. So we prayed together that night. Now, this is an experience John had never had and speaks to John's openness. But the next morning, John woke up. He just came to, enough that the social worker approved him to sign the papers to say he, that I was his power of attorney, David was power of attorney. And so we were able to make medical decisions for him. And he stayed awake and rallied long enough to be able to be taken to hospice in Denver and then brought here. And that moment of reverence that he felt, I asked him when he was awake, "Why did you want a rosary? Like, that was so weird. What was that about?" And he said, I was raised a faithful person, he said, but just once I wanted to feel what it's like to feel as much faith as your mom felt every day that she prayed that rosary for me. I just wanted to feel that. And it reminded me how much John loved life and just wanted to feel and experience with others, everything. And it's the thing he wanted for his students too. He loved every single one of you who he brought to UWC. He had faith in every single one of you who came here. There were others who didn't get to come, and he suffered it. But that love of experience and living followed him all the way to the end. And Andrew was good enough to thank so many people who really helped. But Andrew helped too bring John back, and so many people really, after being so touched by John, wanted to make sure to make his end of life as special as it could be. And I think it was. And David and I had the great honor of being with him when he passed, and I got to hold his hand right up through the end with a rosary and a rock from the Mediterranean that was meant to get him back to the Mediterranean, and that didn't happen. But he lived fully and joyfully all the way until it wasn't possible to do that anymore. And he let go with such grace and peacefully. And I know he would be thrilled to see every one of you here, and I hope people have some very bad things to say about him, because you all know he was not perfect. He could be a real pain in the drain. And that's when he was the most fun, and really gonna miss him.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gavin Powell. I'm a member of the UWC-USA committee. Nothing pre-prepared, so please bear with me. I'm also, like I said, I'm Costa Rica class of 2015, so I was at UWC Costa Rica while John was the head of admissions. So, I don't know what UWC, I guess I'm learning what UWC looks like without John. And even outside of that, John has been an integral part and a huge advocate in every single step of my life. Ever since campus, just monitoring my growth as a young man, and trying to keep me in line on campus, or even being in college. Me knowing that I feel like he was one of the few people that genuinely believed I could go to where I wanted to go, or him reaching out to me in college, saying, hey, give this group of Chinese students I brought here a tour on campus, or post-grad where we also bonded over. I also in a position where I'm the caretaker for my mother, so that was something that we were able to talk about and bond over, and I got a lot of reassurance and confidence from him in that regard. And so again, when I look at every stage of my life, John has always been one of the biggest advocates for me, always pushing me to do more, always letting me know that there was more I could do for those around me. And I was also charged with breaking the news to some of my co-years who weren't familiar yet. And one of the things that my friends kept saying was, God, like, what a good man. That was just something we just kept repeating over the phone, like, what a good man. And so, when I think about, what I can do to honor John's memory, one of the things I think everyone's saying here is, one word I think of is advocacy. Just that ability to, look at someone and really bring out and let them know that there's so much potential, there's so much greatness in you that, you can bring out. And it's mind-blowing to think that, every single step of my life, he was really pushing for me to do more, be more involved. And I'm not arrogant enough to think I could ever fill his shoes, but how I think of how I can honor his memory, if I could even inspire or, advocate for a fraction of the kids or people that, he's led on to do such great things, then, I think I'm in the right direction. Or even just make someone laugh, or not laugh, because we all know he was, a lot of his jokes didn't land, which I can definitely relate to. So we have that in common as well, still working on that. But when I think of John, I just think of advocacy, and I really struggle to think of someone who throughout every stage of my life just kept finding ways to reach back to him and say, hey, get involved, do this. I know you can do this. Even, I wouldn't be on the committee if it wasn't for him. I remember coming here the first year as a guest reader and feeling like I was so out of my depth, like, what am I even doing here? I don't think I can do this, but, him just constantly reassuring me, and, I really just think it's advocacy, just making sure other people see that there's so much in you that I see, and I'm going to keep pushing you to be great and do great things. Thank you.
My name is August, and I live here, and I will not be nearly as long-winded as y'all, but I have just a short memory I'd like to share.
Can you tilt the microphone?
Is that better? Me and my wife moved here in 2020 with our small child at the height of COVID. It was a very, very weird time to be moving here. And one of the weirdest things was, in a community like this, you would expect when you showed up that there'd be like, oh, come over, let's hang out, let's get to know each other, but none of that was happening. And my poor wife was working really, really hard to figure out a very complicated job at a completely insane time, which meant that I was alone at home with our tiny kid a lot. And I did a lot of walking. I did a lot of walking just around campus, both with the kid and without him. And what I remember is that one day I was walking actually right down over there next to this building. And it was in the afternoon. And I was walking up the hill, and the car, I think you all know what I'm talking about, rolls down the hill, and, he stops next to me, and the window comes down, and John looks, and he looks at me, and he's like, "Excuse me, can I see your ID?" And then, he breaks out in the John smile. Because, of course, he knows exactly who I am. And then he asked, how's it going? Do you need anything? What can we do? About a year, I'm thinking a year and a half later, I had, it doesn't matter, I had gotten myself stuck in Santa Fe with no way back, and I wasn't even on any of the relevant campus chats at that point. So I asked my wife, how do I get back? And she's like, I'll put a message on the chat, let me see. And she's like, okay, don't worry about it. John Carpenter is gonna pick you up. And I was like, that guy is so weird, really? And she's like, it's the only way, otherwise you're stuck there. I'm like, okay, fine. So, he meets at the place, and I get in the car. How's it going? How's it going? A little bit of chit chat. And he's like, I'm really sorry. I have to make a really important phone call. And it's really important, and it's kind of private, so I'm going to ask you to keep it to yourself. I'm like, sure, no problem. So he gets on the phone as we're driving back to campus, and I will honor his request to keep that conversation private, except to say, it was a student and a parent in a very difficult position who were feeling very, very unsure of what they were doing and what it is that they needed to do. And he guided them through it in a way that I am totally astounded by. And I left that car ride feeling like there are so many things that this man knows that I do not about this place, about what's happening here. He was not around on campus for a while there while he was sick, and he's been missed for a while around here. Thanks.
I am a student that's recognized by John, and unlike all of you, you might know much more about him. But me, I've only seen him through Zoom, and I've only seen him, his upper body, the head, the face, the arms. Never seen his legs before, or feet. Yeah. But I'm so grateful to him, and because I've been rejected by Chinese NC, and then this is my second time applying, and I'm just so grateful that he recognized me and let me found so many good friends in a place I really feel belong to here, and he gives me this opportunity, and I still kept the teacup that my family requested me. Asked me if I brought it from China, and then they asked me if I can give it to John, because they're so grateful that he'll recognize me and just take me to this place. And I still have the teacup. And just, I don't know, I'm just so grateful. And it's just so weird, kind of a weird feeling when Andrew sent out the email that John has passed away, because it's like, I was so, all the time, when I first met him on Zoom, I was like, I like this person, he's so interesting. I always interrupt him when he was talking to me because I was so excited to share everything. And then he gave me this tip for the selection day that you should don't interrupt people and encourage people to speak up during the discussion. I kept it in mind all the time. I still have it in mind when during discussion or anything. And yeah, I'm just so grateful to him, and I was always looking forward to see him in person because it's so weird to notice that, like a virtual person, you've never really seen them in person, like just suddenly disappeared, and you don't want to have the opportunities to see the real person anymore. In my world, he only stays in the Zoom 2D John, but I didn't get opportunities to see the 3D John. And after all, I'm just thank him. Thank you so much, John. I'm so grateful to be here. Like, thank you for opening the door for me to get here.
I am the wife of this person, so now I have to. So yes, we came at a very weird time with an 8-month-old baby during COVID, and I'm not sure, I think I only knew John from Zoom for the first few months because of COVID. And in my role at that time, I didn't know it, but I was in charge of getting everybody, of basically getting the package of all the first years. And John would say, okay, they're yours now, have fun. And then would give them to Naomi and I to sort of usher them through the rest of their time on campus. And so there were some times where there was some question about a student, or whether, like, do we think this student is really going to be able to make it through the program? What kind of background does this student come from so we can really help them? And John knew all of the details. He knew how many siblings they had, what kind of financial situation they were in, what was their home life like. And that information allowed those of us who were in student life to help them through the rest of their time here. And at first, in the beginning, we would sort of spar over, well, shouldn't that go under admissions budget? Didn't that come with the student? Shouldn't that be part of your, he was always very firm. It ended up in our budget, sorry, Andrew. And, at first I felt like, gosh, you just give us 120 new people. And literally, it was like that he got them to campus and he was done. And it was always a little bit like, okay, really? But he meant it, and I think he meant it because he had such belief in all of us who work here, and he had such belief in the students. And it was empowering, even though it was a little bit startling at first. And so I'm really pleased that we were able to work together for some time. And I'm happy we're all here to remember him and his funny sense of humor. And now the baby is 6 years old, and John always asked how he was doing, which was very sweet.
I met John in 2024 during the annual Davis Scholarship Weekend. I remember we had all just got to the hotel. Everyone was super nervous, lining up to get our keys, as you guys know. And John was coming down the hallway, and all the students were like, oh my gosh, it's John. It's the guy. It's the guy who sends all the emails. I was super nervous. I backed up against the wall. My suitcase was in the way. Everyone else was on the other side, and I realized a little bit too late. He said to me, what are you doing on this side? Do you want to get in? And I was like, oh, yes, I do. Yes, I do. And then he touched my shoulder, and he smiled, and I knew he was just kidding. Throughout the weekend, his enthusiasm and his excitement for this school in particular made it the place that I wanted to be. I came into final this weekend not sure about my rankings, and I ended up ranking UWC-USA at the very top. And then when I came to campus, the Admissions Advisory Council was an opportunity that I knew I wanted to be a part of, both to contribute to what he was so passionate about and what I was passionate about, but also to continue working and learning from him. As I continued working on the AAC, I really appreciated the bond that I was able to grow with him. I was able to talk to him about things that were stressing me, things that were hard to adapt to at UWC-USA. And that connection really made this place feel a little bit more like home every time I talked to him. When I came back this year, I remember I was a little bit late to one of my meetings during orientation, and he messaged me, Max, what happened? Are you okay? And I was like, yes, just a little jet lagged. And I was like, oh, that was sweet. And then I was sick in the second month of school, and he messaged me again, and I started to think, how does he know all of these things? He wasn't on campus at the time, so I was a little confused, a little honored that he cared, and I asked him, I was like, how do you know? And he's like, I look at the reach requests. And that decision he made each time to reach out to me and to check on me really meant a lot. Over the Christmas break, I had the opportunity to write in one of my college supplements a thank you note, and I chose to write it to John. I never was able to share it with him because he passed away shortly after, but I just really want to say today, thank you, John. Thank you so much.
I'm Naomi Swinton, and I had the pleasure of talking with John when he had accepted the job here, and we were on the phone, and we both happened to be on vacation at the time, and he was in Mallorca, which is a place that was dear to his heart and where his friends gathered, and he couldn't always be there with them, but he really relished those times, and so I was kind of joking with him that, we were going to pull him into Montezuma, New Mexico, away from Mallorca and all that fabulous fun he was having. And, he was clearly so excited to get to work with the amazing students and the National Committee, and he's just so devoted to this kind of work. And it made me think about how much joy he brought. Just, talking to him on the phone and not knowing him, we agreed that we would kind of be buddies and look out for one another. And indeed, John and I ended up serving with several other illustrious members of our community on the COVID task force, which, which met every day. So anyway, at that time, our departments were quite separate, but the COVID task force brought us together interdepartmentally in this amazing way that was probably transformative in its own way. But for me, it was transformative because I was working with this funny guy who I'd considered a friend, but I really got to see the discernment he brought and the courage he brought to his decision making, and the way that he would give voice to things that needed to be said, but that not everybody was comfortable saying. And I think it's a testament to the courage he brought to his life. I think that John grew up in a situation where he needed courage to be able to fully express himself and to be able to create the dream and walk the path that he did, that was toward education, towards global learning, towards global friendship, across differences, truth-telling, in having the courage to be who he was, and then to go to schools and say, you know what, your school can be a place where people can be true to themselves. And we're gonna make that possible through our admissions, through our COVID task force, through the way that we accompany people when they arrive in Albuquerque and they've got to get all the way to Montezuma. And John had the courage of his convictions. He also had joy in the little things, and he found ways to bring joy, for Dorothy, for so many of us here on campus with those funny teasing moments. And I really believe that John, as a kind of warrior and truth teller and courageous, funny person who is very humble, but did so much for international education and cross-cultural education, not only here at our school, but at many, many schools and across the movement. And I will just always be, humbled by his example in terms of the courage and love that he brought to that belief in international education and how it can transform lives. And I think that the power that he brought to us in life, I am more than confident that he will help ensure that international education and global education and that kind of courage to be ourselves and to bring that through schools into the world, that he's still working on that. Have no doubt. And I know that when any of us need courage or a little friendly word or joke, that we can remember the things that John said to us in those moments where the choice was kind of between truth and tension, and he somehow found a way to make that transformative truth-telling possible. So thank you, John.
Hi, I'm Bev, and I've known John for years before I joined the National Committee in 2018. And I've known him as a person, who just displayed incredible emotional intelligence. He was such an advocate for students, even to the point of sometimes we'd have to say in the committee, like, John, I don't really think that person has good predictors of success, so maybe we need to hold off a little bit now and then. He was absolutely amazing in that capacity. I got to know him on a very different level when I also was diagnosed with cancer. I'm fine now, but he just was so in touch with me and provided support, and that really meant a lot. We had a lot of letters going back and forth, and it gave me strength to know what he was going through, but still had the grace to be supportive. And I think for any of us, if there's a lesson to be learned, is eventually, when we do face our own end of life, to have the courage to do it with the grace and dignity that he displayed.
Hi, I'm Julie. I'm one of John's friends from St. Louis, and I met John about the same time as David in '99. And our I guess in our professional lives, John and I were connected. We did a lot of international work. I was in college admissions working with international students, and we got to travel together. We were part of different associations. But John and I became very close friends, and really close personal friends, to the point where my son calls him Uncle John. And he had an incredible way of seeing people, and especially kids, and from all ages. When I was pregnant with my son, John said to me, "I'm not good with babies. Like, bring them to me when they can talk, and but no babies. So I'm not gonna be around very much when you have your baby." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, we're such good friends. What are you talking about?" But he was like, no, I'm not good with babies. My son came early, and John was the first person there on the day he was born. He brought flowers to the hospital, and it just so happened that the moment he came in the door, I had been ringing, I was holding my son. I was trying to get the nurse to come because I really had to go to the bathroom. And John came in at this moment, and I was like, "Oh, thank God." And I just shoved the baby in his hands. And I ran into the bathroom, and he sat down with my son Hudson and just held him. And from that moment, like, there was this like joy and love for my son, and it continued. So from the time he was born, that day he was born, until the end, John really became such an important person to my son Hudson. As he was 2, 3, every time he saw him, he would turn him upside down and just flip him upside down and make him laugh. This was until, I don't know, he was like 10 or 12. I mean, and to the point where I'm like, "You're gonna drop him, or you guys are both gonna end up on the floor." But he would constantly say, "Oh, I can do this, I can do this." And he'd flip him upside down. And he would create all these stories with my son and always take time to play with him. They created this entire league called Squirrel Ball, where squirrels played baseball, but with their tails. It was very strange, but we talk about Squirrel Ball a lot. And through the years, he became so close to Hudson. So Hudson calls him Uncle John. And when I was in Denver at hospice, John and I had a really long talk one evening, and he said, "One of my sort of regrets is that I left Hudson before I could walk him through the whole college process, because that's what I do." He's like, I do all that. I'm a professional." I'm like, "I know." And he's like, "And I didn't help him through that process." And I was like, "John, you've helped him all his life. Like, you've grown him, you've been there for him, and you've left this legacy in him." And I said, "And you've also left this legacy for all these kids that you've helped. So there's no regrets, And thinking about this time when we're feeling the loss of John, I really wanted to come back just to be here today, knowing that everybody was going to gather and remember him. And it just felt important to me to be surrounded by people who loved him, who knew him, who saw him just as he saw everyone. And especially to the students, you are his legacy, and you will go on to do amazing things. And that's all John ever wanted, was to promote the goodness and that everything that he saw in you, and amazing things that you would go out and do in this world. And so I am forever grateful to John for what he meant to me, for what he meant to my family, my son, and to all of you. And I just want to say thank you to John. And he would have loved this. He would have loved this moment.
Hi, everyone. I know we could be here all evening telling our John story, so I thought I would just jump up and share mine because it's a really cute story, and I think it shows so much about him. My name is Wendy Chang, and I'm one of the U.S. National Committee members, and I just want to tell the little story about how I first met John. It was August of 2010, and I'm a college counselor, and I had just moved from New York City to Henley-on-Klip, South Africa, to be the founding college counselor at the Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy for Girls. And it was such a surreal change for me, living really, really in the middle of nowhere, about an hour or so outside of Johannesburg, and especially working at a school that was kind of named with the name of a celebrity. We would get a lot of strange inquiries, asking for money, like asking if Miss Winfrey could do things, even though we were her school and she lived in California. And then one day, the administrative assistant who handled all the emails forwarded one to me to respond to. And it basically was like, oh, dear Oleg, this email might seem a little strange, but I live in the United States, and I'm a college counselor, and my mom is a huge fan of Oprah, and she saw on TV that Oprah has opened a school in South Africa, and she said to me, honey, why don't you actually try to get those girls into college? Because they're going to have to go to college someday. And so I'm writing because I promised my mom that I would reach out and see if I can help any of your girls get into college. And it was John. And so I just wrote back to him. I said, that's so crazy because I actually just got this job. And my new job is actually to help get these girls into college. And then from there just started this wonderful friendship. And where then when we did start to meet at conferences, we just had this wonderful, wonderful story. And you all know the rest. It was just years of John's joy and his being your corner man, right? Like I kind of was like, no, John's my corner man, until I learned that he's everyone's corner man. And just your champion. And so anytime, you just kind of felt like John was so in your corner that when he asked you a favor, you were like, what can I do for you? So if it was like, you know what, Wendy, we're kind of short a couple laptops. I know you work at a school. Do you guys have any extra laptops sitting around? No problem. And then I was always mailing them to him at like the weird, I think I sent one to Julie one time because he was like traveling the world, but would be passing through St. Louis. And I just, I'm just so grateful to have been one of those people like that had John in their corner. And as so many of us are lifelong educators and have been in this field for 20, 30, 40 years, and there's so few folks I think you go through. We don't get paid a lot in our field, so there's a lot of ego, I think, because you kind of try to make up for the lack of compensation by trying to sort of, think that you're a big deal. And John had no ego. It was nothing about him. He had no agenda other than just, it's for the kids, and I'm going to find kids who need it. I'm going to do right by them and fight tooth and nail to be there for them. And I'm just so grateful to be in this room with so many people who've got the chance to experience that. And my last little cute John story is I remember there was one day he was coming to New York City where I was living at the time. And he wanted, last minute, he called me to meet for coffee, and I was so embarrassed because I had just gotten like the worst haircut of my entire life. But I was like, okay, John, just to warn you though, I just got the worst haircut. And so we meet up for coffee, and John manages to convince me that I just looked great. So I go through the rest of the day thinking I look great, and then got home, and I was like, this is really, what was John Carpenter doing? I wore like ponytails and hats for the rest of the 4 months after that. But just leave it to John to be able to make you feel so great. And he is the reason why I am on the committee, because he called, and even though I had no time, I was so busy, he convinced me that this was something I needed to do. And again, so grateful. So just thank you, John, wherever you are. So grateful to have had you in my life.
Hey everyone, my name is Param, and I'm a current second year at the school. So the first time I met John was in 2024, and this sometime after I arrived here like with my parents. No, this is 2023 actually. Sorry, that's it's been a while. And one of the things that I told him when I met him was that, you know, I'm applying to UWC through the India NC, and he was immediately onto it. He was like, oh, you know, that's really great. You know, I can help you. Just reach out to me whenever you want to. And so that's what I did. I asked for him to give me advice through the process as I was writing my application, and he gave me some great advice and kept in touch with him. And all of that kind of accumulated in right before my interview for the India NC, which was around December. And I was nervous out of my mind. I was basically a wreck. And and I didn't think of contacting him. So I was in the dining hall, and he just happened to come by and walk by the table I was sitting. And he asked me, oh, how's your application process going? And I told him, oh, I have an interview in 3 days, and I'm really nervous for that. And he asked me, oh, why didn't you tell me? So then he told me, okay, on Thursday, which was the day before my interview, I'm going to do a mock interview with you, and I'm going to give you tips before your actual one. And so he scheduled this Zoom meeting, and he asked for my personal email. And then on that night, like at 8:03, when we started our call, first thing he does was, what is something that will make about you that will make someone laugh? And I told him at the time that I'm the biggest nerd that you'll ever find, and I'll like talk about something very niche, like I don't know, something that I know of that is like a gear system in some rocket engine that is in a particular rocket that was like decommissioned 50 years ago, right? And so then he was like, okay, then talk about that in your interview. And then I told him, but I'm very shy and like I never talk about that. And then he looked at me, you have to step up if you want to be a part of this community. And that's one thing that was like my biggest takeaway from that interview, that the mock interview that I had with John, that I have to step up and I have to put myself out there. And it's something I carried over to my UWC journey here. That interview went on for like an hour, 35 minutes. And then the day after went like 2 hours and 11. And it was honestly, I was nervous throughout, but I was very happy. And I met him in person and I thanked him, but I felt like that was not enough. So I had drafted an email to send to him after I'd gotten the acceptance letter. But I never got the chance to send it until till one time, like just this winter break actually. I was going through my drafts on my personal email. There was very few, like 6 of them. And I saw this one and I was like, oh, I should have sent it to him. So I put some more work in it, and I was thinking I'll send it to him. I heard that he's been getting better and stuff. And then Andrew's email comes, and I see it the day later, like at 11:52 p.m. Because on our student WhatsApp group chat, I heard from my friend that we should do something for John, and I was like, wait, what's happening? And so then I looked at it, and I just, my first impulse was to go back to the draft and write it more and send it to him before it's too late. So I'm just going to read out that draft that I'd composed. I don't know if he got the chance to read it. I really hope he did. But if he's up there somewhere, I hope he's hearing this. So bear with me. It's titled Thank You, and it's to John. This first part is the message that I'd composed in 2024. And then the latter is the one that I did after. Dear John, I hope you have recovered and you're having a great morning. I would like to express my gratitude for your advice you gave me on Thursday. I believe it was your advice of being calm and friendly, which really helped me persevere through the interview. Overall, I think it went really well, and the panel had a positive outlook on it in the end. I am looking forward to their reply, and after that, I'd love to be interviewed by you again. And then this is what I wrote this December 22nd, 2025. Hi, John. Today has been a day of coincidences for me. I found this unsent draft from 2024 after my UWC interview, and then I saw Andrew's email about your situation. But I just wanted to send this preserved message as I prepare for submitting my last college applications. I would like to send a very, 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 very large amount of love and support through this email to you, and I genuinely hope you get better. And I want to genuinely thank you so, so much for this opportunity at UWC. It would not have been possible without you. Many best wishes to you, and I hope you have a wonderful time ahead. Thank you so much for everything you helped me through, John. I wish the best for you. Warmest, sweetest, kindest, jolliest, and hope-filled regards to you. And again, thank you so, so, so much, John. Param. That's all.
Hi, I'm Yangal. I'm Mia from Madagascar. And usually before speaking like that, I repeat everything like 100 times. Because, yeah, I'm doing more than what I have to do for myself, not overall. But today, I really want to talk because I don't want to have more regrets. Because I have two big regrets before John passed away. And one thing that I think, for those who know me, I love singing. Like, I just love singing. And like, even before, when I didn't even get to UWC here, during my interview, one of my questions was, is there music here? Like, if there are like music courses or something like that. And when I told my mother, like my parents, like that's what I said, and they were just laughing, like, you didn't even get accepted and you're already asking like if you can do music or something like that. And I was just like, no, but like I just want, like, I'm really curious. And then when I knew that I got accepted, which I really didn't expect, like, because it's a very long story, but like, it's just, I didn't expect one day, like, even to be able to study here abroad. And it's just, like, it was not even one of my dreams. Like, it's just something, a gift, I would say, from God, because
it was just not even one of my dreams. And then when I arrived here, no, I didn't arrive here yet. I mean, and then after I received the message, and it was John's message, and he announced that I was accepted here, and I was really, really happy. And then when I got in touch with him, and one of my first questions, it was still like, is there music at UWC-USA? And then he was like, no, but like it depends on the school and everything. And I was kind of disappointed, but then I was like, that's fine. I was just really, really happy that I got here. And then I was just teasing my mom, like, when I will see him, I will literally sing in front of him. I will just sing, like I will ask him, like, what's your favorite song? And I will just sing there. And then because just to show him how much I was grateful and everything. But and then when I knew that he was sick, it becomes like literally on my mind, like, John, I want to sing for you. Like, I wanted to send him a message, like, what's your favorite song? I don't know. But I couldn't. And probably it's just like, it seems probably something that ridiculous, but I was really thinking, like, to ask him and like to thank him, and just to say how much I was happy and how much it just changed my life. And also, my second regret is that, because I think I saw him, he went here on campus, I think. He was wearing a mask, if I remember. I think he went here, I'm sure. I was not really sure though if it was him. Like, and then he was sitting alone on the outside of castle, like, I don't know how to call it, the bench. I'm not really sure. And then I saw him there. He was alone. He was just sitting, and then he was just looking around him. And I was too scared to talk to him, like, I don't know, it was not like scared, like when I'm scared talking to people, but I was just like, what do I say? How should I talk to him? Like, my English is not perfect. I don't know, in my head it was just like that. And I was just very nervous. So I was like, no, I'm not gonna talk to him. So I didn't talk to him. But John, like, if he was here right now, I'm just saying, like, how much grateful I am. And it's like such, I know that so many people are just telling, like, how UWC is a life-changing experience, or just like an amazing opportunity once in a lifetime. And I remember I said that during my interview and my applications, but like today I'm saying it again, and like how much, just to show how much I'm grateful and how much I'm just sorry that I couldn't even like sing or even just talk to him before he just passed away. And just I will remember him forever. And over the break, I sent a message in the group chat, like, can we do a video for him or something like that before it's just too late? And then so many people just sent their videos and everything. And someone was helped, Param, he also helped me, like, just so many students sent their videos and everything, and I didn't even cut the videos. Like, I edited the videos, but then I was like, I don't care even not, I'm not even a professional, I'm just gonna do this, I'm gonna send this to him. But then, he couldn't, he was already like, he was not conscious, not fully conscious, I don't know if you say it like that, not conscious, not fully conscious anymore when the video was played. And I was like, that's fine. it's not good to live with regrets. It's just how you're gonna act in the future. And I believe, like, even though I'm not John, I'm just gonna remember him. I'm just not gonna remember him, but I want to be like John, just because I'm hearing all of the good things that everyone is just saying about him, and I'm just like, I would like to die like that. And I'm just very grateful, and thank you so much, John. And even though I didn't talk to you, I'm just very grateful, and I'm just happy that I'm here. It's genuinely like an experience that will change my life forever. And it's just not about experience, it's also about, like, it's opening doors and everything, and I'm just very, very happy, and thank you so much, and I'm still sorry. Thank you. No. And, during one of before whole, there was a cafe. I don't remember. I think it was a Christmas cafe. I don't remember. And I did a song. It was "Remember Me," and I didn't really. In my head, I was like, I'm also offering this song for John, but like right now, there. I don't even remember the lyrics. Can I? Um, remember me, though I have to say goodbye. Remember me, don't let it make you cry. For even if I'm far away, I'll hold you in my arms. I'll sing a secret song to you each night we are apart. Remember me, though I have to say goodbye. Remember me. Now that I'm with you, the only thing that I could be, until you're in my arms again. Remember me. Sorry, my voice. Yeah, thank you.
I just want to thank everyone. I don't want to stop the sharing, but I do want to give permission for people to come and go, and I know that we need to wrap up things online. There is a guest, it's not a guest book, it's a memory book. If you haven't shared a memory and you would like to, I would very much invite you to share something in that book. And even if you have shared, please share again in the book as many times as you can. I think that John is here with us, and I think that he would love this. And I will just share, and maybe David, if you want to share any ending moments, but one of the things that he, again, towards the end, I think the one thing he asked of all of us is to be kind. Be kind to one another. And he also used the phrase to bring the light, which I thought was beautiful. And so I would invite us to continue to be as kind and generous and a little cranky with one another too, but just to really make space for one another and to hear our voices together. So thank you so much for coming.
There's a video. Yes. Okay. Mingali, who just sang for us, created this. Yes. This is a segment of what she.
Hey John, just wanted to give a quick message to you. Hi John, I'm Inase.
Hi John, this is Daruka.
My name is Julian Du. I'm from the US and China.
Hey John, it's Carmen from Spain.
Hi John, this is Camilo from Switzerland.
Hey John, hello, it's Chloe, Sia, and Yasha.
I'm Alejandra from Colombia.
I'm Ononce from Nigeria and Ghana.
This is Salem from Nigeria.
And it's Nairobi from Barbados.
Hi John, this is Musoma. I'm from Nigeria, Canada.
I'm Emma from China.
Hello John, this is Jun Sub. I'm the Korean who just graduated. I'm in St. John's College in Santa Fe right now.
Hey John, this is James and Levy, just calling in.
Hi John.
Hi John.
Hey John.
Hi John, this is Anya.
Hi John, you know me. You're AAC.
John, I'm Eva from Belgium.
Hi John, it's Nyangal from Madagascar.
Hey John, my name is Gina. I'm from Curacao.
Hey John, my name is Boxito.
Hi John, my name is Prakriti Thani and I'm from Nepal. Hey John, it's Thais from Brazil and the US.
John Carpenter, I'm Tyra from Indonesia.
Hey John, it's Jafundo.
Hi John, it's Anna and I'm from France.
Hey John, it's me, Yoksavadalov from Azerbaijan.
I think you know me, Mr. Takatov, as you call me.
Hey John, greetings all the way from Portugal. This is Lucas.
My name is Indira Abraham and I am from Namibia.
Hi John, this is Fabi from Mozambique.
Hi John. Hi John.
We want to all thank you so much for all the work you have done to help us.
I really wanted to see you and say thank you as soon as possible.
Thank you for your kindness. Thank you for your inspiration.
For the effort that you put into every single one of us.
For all you have done for us and for always supporting us.
You really helped us to be here today.
Thank you for answering all our emails, doing the videos.
You were the first contact I had with the school.
I remember my first interaction with UWC-USA being my interview with you. I remember likening that short video call to an amazing trailer for an even greater movie, which would in time become my unforgettable UWC-USA experience.
I remember the first email you sent me when I got accepted to UWC-USA, and I'm sorry we weren't able to meet in person, but
I really felt your genuinity in both your work and when I just talk with you.
I would also like to appreciate and thank you for all the work that you do and did for me and for all of us in UWC.
Thank you for the 2 years that we got to spend with you and the incredible time that you offered us by allowing us into UWC.
Yes, your presence on campus was great for the 2 years we were there, and so was your big smile, so thank you.
Thank you for believing in us. There's so much I want to tell you. I wanted to meet you so badly since the beginning of school last year, and we can also feel how much students, faculty, and staff care about you. We all care about you so much. I admire your courage. You're such a brave person.
From you, I've learned a lot of things that I'll carry with me all my life. Like being kind, being content, and being genuine.
Thank you so much, John.
La bola, John.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, John.
Yeah, thank you for everything.
Thank you.
You are very important to us.
I'm really looking forward to seeing you someday.
You're truly loved, John, and for sure, I'll keep you in my prayers.
I'm praying for you in my religion.
Give you all the best wishes, all the best energy, all the best prayers.
My mom and I are going to pray for you through all our Thai temples and stuff.
God loves you. You've done a great job.
I'm sending you hope and prayers.
We love you. We miss you.
Well, I miss you so much.
Stay strong, John.
We love you so much.
We love you so much.
We can promise that we will keep the mission going and keep things going as you would have liked.
And have a great time.
And I'm sending you lots of love.
Lots of love. Lots of love.
Sending you lots of love.
Lots of love.
Frohe Festtage und einen guten Rutsch ins neue Jahr.
I'm really happy that I got to know you. And
I'm only sending love and peace. I'll remember you forever. Bye.
Au revoir.
Bye, John.